The Astro-CHADS are now live. This is a series that Dr. Narco Longo and I were discussing and we are currently launching. Personally, I'm at an intro to astrology level. I'm completely fascinated by it. In my view, it is a form of literacy. For most of my life, and for many of you, you've probably been astrologically illiterate. Now, for this series, beginning with Aries, we're going to go through every single sign, and I hope this is the definitive Intro to Astrology series brought to you by Dr. Narco Longo and I, the Al Diggity Dog, on the Old World Florida channel. Let's begin.
Shell yeah, man.
So,
Shell yeah. We're going to get into it. We've set the stage with the background, the colors. That's all going to play into this series. And you know, you're not only going to be able to hear it, you're going to be able to see the energy of this sign as well, Aries. Now, I have a long list of etymological links having to do with Aries. We have some celebrities and such we're going to talk about. But Al, where do you want to get started, man?
So I want to start with the very beginning. I mean, what does Aries look like in the sky? In the Gregorian calendar, when does it begin? When are the dates? What is the most basic levels of Aries that we as viewers and people being educated right now? I feel as if I am the king of America and this is the court astrologer, I and the audience are getting a royal education right now. So from the very beginnings of these archetypes, these signs are like archetypes of the cyclical year. The very beginning with Aries, what does Aries mean?
It's the most masculine sign of the zodiac, so we'll start with that. And right in the name, Aries, we have a phonetic link to arise. This is the arising. Okay, this is when the sun rises. Why? Because Aries rules over the early morning, 6 o'clock on average. Okay, the mean sunrise time of the whole earth, and that is ruled over by Aries. When you hear people saying their ascendant or their rising sign, okay, in astrology, not to go too deep, but that is referring to the first house of the zodiac, which corresponds to the first sign of the zodiac, Aries. So the rising sign is what you have in your house ruled by Aries. So that's a little bit of the rising connection, because this rules the sunrise, when the sun is at its strongest, because the sun is exalted in Aries. When we say exalted in astrology, we mean at its best, at its highest, at its truest, most exuberant, whole, pure manifestation. The sun is proud in Aries. So the rising sign, you get that phrase from the fact that Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. That doesn't mean everyone's rising sign is Aries, but there's a connection there that we'll get into deeper when we talk about houses. But Aries, to arise. Now, it's a fire sign. So some people might think, well, air, well, that's close. There's a connection there, but it's Aries, the god of war, god of destruction, fire, discipline, good things as well. But this is also Mars. Now, this is why Aries begins March 20th. Now, some will say the 21st, some will, it depends, there's leap years here and there. But the zodiac does not move. So March 20th or the 21st, when the spring equinox is firmly calculated, that is the first tick of Aries. Now, that is fitting to springtime because the sun is at its strongest, right? Now, some might think the sun's at its strongest in the summer, but we have to remember summer is actually a culmination. It's an ending. It's the sun is burning out and giving everything it has at the end before it lays down to sleep or die. Aries is when he's truly running into his prime and excelling. So this is Aries. During this time of year, you have lots of fertility going on, or at least one of the aspects of fertility is, basically Aries rules over lust in a sense. Aries, god of war. is where you get Mars, which is where you get the name for March. Now, March is the true first month, and we can get into that because this explains the September, October, November conundrum, right? Well, this holds the key to all that when we begin with March. Now, April, meaning abracadabra, abrir, to open the door, right? Now, that is also indicating that this is the first sign of the zodiac. So March gets its name from Mars. April gets its name from the fact that this is the opening of the zodiac, the first sign of the zodiac. Even though it's the second month, when you think zodiacally, this is the first sign of the zodiac, encompassing the last third of March and the first 2/3 of April.
So my first and most early memories of Aries was actually when I was a kid and I was watching a show called Xena Warrior Princess. And the bad guy was named Aries, and he was always starting some shit, which is quite archetypal of this sign. Is there any specific animal that is assigned to this sign?
Of course, yes. Now, the animal corresponding to Aries is the ram. The ram, and the name ram in English, bears the word war inside of it. Ram, war. Flip that W upside down. You have your ram, war. What else is that? Raw. Because Aries rules blood and iron. In fact, the word iron and the word Aries are the same, or have the same origin. Now, that also has to do with Aries is ruled by Mars. Now, Mars in Germanic mythology is called Tyr, or Tor, not Tor, that's Jupiter. Tyr. This is where we get words like tyrant, tired, tirade, and from Tyre, this is also the Phoenician Tyre, the city. Tyre meaning red or rosy, or even purple, like blood. These are the colors of blood. Tyre is where we get iron. Okay, iron. And then Aries is also, I said the word ready earlier. Aries is always ready because they rule the color red. So they're always at the ready. They can be very red in the face. Aries, people who have a strong martial influence have Aries, have either a strong Aries or a strong martial presence in their chart to get that redness, that iron-rich blood. And iron in the blood is what makes it red. And this is where we get rust, has the same root word as rust, Aries. Rust, rus means red, many languages.
So when I think of the ram, right, it immediately makes me think of the Dodge Ram, or perhaps the Los Angeles Rams. So these are very warlike. It's a warlike vehicle, the Dodge Ram truck. And the Los Angeles Rams, formerly the St. Louis Rams, well, it's a very warlike team, right? So these are some things that I automatically think of. It's almost like a form of astrological alchemy. They're trying to manifest the power of Aries with their truck or with their football team.
Yeah, definitely. I drive a Ram, and they have that energy about them. They don't want to impress you, not looking to make the nice, fancy.
They want to ram you.
If you ram something, this is a martial quality. Aries rules the forehead. And what are Rams known for doing? Ramming their forehead into things. And you don't ram things from behind, do you? You always ram things head on. Aries rules the head, especially the forehead. And this is where you get words like headstrong. Aries are very headstrong, right? But they can be, they're also the fool of the zodiac. So with being the first sign of the zodiac, they're also the first card of the tarot and have an association with the fool archetype. And Aries, if you know Aries, they can be very much buffoonish in some ways and hasty in their decisions. But like a ram, they rush into things. They're always the first one through the door. The word pioneer has its origin from pyro, also having an association with Aries. Iron, Iro, Ireland being the land of iron. Okay, you'll see Irish with their red features and rosy features, red skin, things like that. So lots of connections there with the ram and Mar. That's also Mar. Mar, ram, war, Ra.
So people who have Aries as their sun sign, what are some good archetypal examples that most people know of, perhaps celebrities?
Right. Now, I'll just right off the bat, someone who's kind of in the limelight right now, who's very Aryan in many different ways, is someone like Logan Paul. Okay. Logan Paul, he's somewhat of a fighter, even if that's just an image instead of, an actual, doesn't matter. You'll find that with the Zodiac. It works in symbols and symbology, right? It does get down to the core of things and the physical and how things do play out. But you'll have to start thinking in symbols and archetypes, like you said. So Logan Paul, this man, he has many of the Aries features. Now he has an angular, kind of more fire-like face. He has a flare to his appearance. His also has like rosy skin and can get very red, right? And then you see he's kind of a little bit of a daredevil. This is an Aryan quality. Aries tend to have little regard for their safety, well-being. They often do without thinking. They're the most known for propelling themselves into situations without much critical thought. For example, Logan Paul filming next to that, guy who offed himself in the forest, right?
Well, he's a daredevil, man. I gotta say, his professional wrestling is nothing short of impressive.
Really?
It's he does some shit. He's a very athletic guy. He reminds me of a golden retriever of a human being. Like you give Logan Paul a tennis ball and bring him to the beach, he's gonna have the time of his life. Is there a
Yeah.
sort of a simpleton quality to the Aries sign?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. Now, not to harp on the negatives right out the gate, but Aries, like I said, is known for foolishness, and you don't have to attribute that to a lack of intelligence. It really just comes down to their sheer lack of awareness, where they do, then think, they act, then reflect. They never reflect on things. I'm using strong words there, but this Aries archetype is the ram rushing into things without looking back, sideways, pausing.
Like an arrow.
Arrow, yes,
Yeah.
there we go. And between Aries and Sagittarius, you have a mythology of Cupid and Eros being love or lust, right? Eros, the Greek Eros, er. Now that's the same word. That's why Cupid has a arrow. But yes, good connection there. And then the Logan Paul, yes, he's a bit of a simpleton in some ways.
Big
Now,
time.
also within the WWE, Aries they tend to have this macho persona. Not always, because there's many different, types, sizes, different packages we're going to get into with the intricacies of the birth chart. But we're just talking about Aries. There was someone who was 1,000,000% Aries. That's who we're speaking about right now.
He likes to fly through the air head first. Literally. I've seen him do it.
Yeah, right. And then also with these people, well, here I'll just throw out another one. In the WWE, The Undertaker is an Aries. Now, Aries have a lot to do with fighting, right? Punishment, things like that, discipline. And there's also a connection to death there. Not as strong as Pluto, not as strong as Scorpio, not as strong as the connection to Pluto. But some say that Pluto has part rulership over Aries. Now, that would only be because Pluto is the octave of Mars. So Peyton Manning is another quintessential archetypal Aries. Now, he shows a different part of the physique, whereas Logan Paul has these finer, more like chiseled, warlike. I want to demonstrate that this angular nature to the face that you see with warlike depicted cartoons and stuff. They never draw them round, pudgy faces. You'll find that more with earth and water signs. You'll find softer faces. Fire signs tend to have this anger or angular nature to them. Aries, I should point out, you can tell best through the eyebrows. Now, who's some guys like this? Chris D'Elia, okay, Tom Segura, some comedians they have this sinister look.
Comedians.
Yeah, well, good point. They have this sinister look in their eyes, and angry look about their face. And I'd also say that The Undertaker has that too, this sinister look. Derek Carr, another Aries with this sinister look. And I'm not saying these guys are bad, but that's kind of their personality is I get arrogant or I get angry. The word arid also comes from Aries, meaning hot and dry. Aries energy is very hot and dry, not moist, not cold at all. Very hot and dry. Hence the color red, the fire, the rosiness of the complexion. And this is what you find with Arians. Yeah, who else? Eddie Murphy's an Aries,
He sort of looks like a Klingon from Star Trek.
You'll find that Nate Diaz, total Klingon. Nate Diaz.
Wow.
Yeah, Nate Diaz,
He's a
big
real
Aries, big time Aries.
Head first arrows type of dude.
You'll find Aries do not make it to stardom as much as the other signs. They kind of inspire contempt in other people. People have a hard time really falling in love with Aries from afar. They have this combustive or abrasive nature. Abrasive, abra, April, the opening of the door. Abra, cadabra, that's Aries. Abrasive, to be off-putting, rough around the edges or a little rude. Rude, red, to be rude, just to be red,
Is there a rebellious streak to Aries as well?
Yes. Aries is a instigator in that sense with rebellion. They'll instigate. They don't like authority. Aries are like the screaming baby of the Zodiac. They're the child of the Zodiac, but also they are rich in youth for a long time, Aries. I touched on the eyes and the brow features, right? This angular jaggedness to the brow. And then Peyton Manning has the forehead. The forehead is supreme in Aries, okay? And he has this behemoth of a forehead. It's like armor plated. You find this very often with Aries. They have from the brow to the top to the hairline it looks like the most firm spot on the body with Aries, with the hardest, most activated. And this is also the cerebrum. The cerebrum is where ram, cherub means angel, right? Or hemisphere of the brain. Cherub, the cerebrum in the front, whereas next sign we're going to talk about being Taurus is the cerebellum, the bowl, because Taurus rules bells and bowls. And so yeah, that's the cerebrum right here, the ram in the front of the forehead, the frontal lobe. And this is the front door. Aries rules starting, beginning, the pioneer, because they're the pyro-near. Pyro.
So there's one particular Aries I want to bring up, and then I have a follow-up question. Lil Nas X. Right. And we all know of this man. It's rather disturbing. But my follow-up question to you is this. Is there an aspect of Aries that will do whatever it takes to make it in whatever industry that there is? Keyword with Lil Nas X being takes and it.
Yes. Now, even Nas kind of implies like a nitrous or a fiery component, a combustion element. But he is, number one, he's despicable. He's disgusting.
He's a flamethrower.
He's flaming, right? Okay. And he often dons red. You'll see him decked out in red a lot. Fire, dancing on the devil, and blood, and just lust, sheer lust. And that is certainly invoking Aries, Mars, even a little bit of Pluto. Aries is more the demon, this devil with a lowercase d. whereas Capricorn is more the devil with the uppercase D. We're going to get into that, the difference between Satan, Saturn, Mars, Aries, things like that. The evil and the destruction tends to occur in the desert where it is arid, where the feminine, the goddesses have no sway over the land. It's very much a masculine landscape. This is Aries realm, you could say. And Aries is a daredevil, like the ram is the daredevil. The ram is, they'll run right into sudden death, and they'll run right off a cliff. It depends. Now, goats are like that too, and that's the connection there. But also what I'm getting at is these are sacrificial animals. So to answer your question, there is an element of sacrifice. You could even stretch the doing without thinking in a moral lens where they're willing to do unspeakable things. There's absolutely an element of not degeneracy, but depravity in Aries. They'll tell you that too. Aries are always the, mean guys, fighters. In Shakespeare, Tybalt, this instigator, this aggressor, he is named T-Bolt, like I said, tyrant, tyranny, tirade, tired. If you're exhausted, you've been worked, you've been marsed, all day, you've been burning energy, you're tired. Well, Tybalt in Shakespeare is this Martian archetype. You see them being the aggressor. Aries is always the aggressor, the instigator. They're very quick to battle. But let's talk about some of the good qualities. Aries is the most confident sign. Now, what do people say about confidence? It's either competence or foolishness, right? So Aries can be either. They can be they can have that foolish confidence where they don't even know what the better alternative is. They're just going for it. And they're very on the move. They're not so much sitting around. They're a very active sign. They like to get things done. They like to go, go, go. They don't like to wait around. Telling an Aries something's going to happen a year from now is like telling them they have cancer, It's terrible. They like to go, go, go. So confidence, they're proactive, they can be headstrong, they just want to get things going, and they're not going to wait around.
So we've talked a lot about men in regards to Aries, it being basically the sign of war, the sign of sort of fiery action. What would you tell men who are dating a woman who is an Aries?
Now, not to be crude and lewd here, I promise the other signs of the zodiac will be more tempered, have a sweeter answer to that question. Aries are kind of your girls who wear combat boots. Okay, they're like the girls who might have a choke, like a black choker. They might have a very young, juvenile aesthetic to them. Like, I'm staying young. I'm not dressing like old people. They might wear a lot of red and black, of course, but the same way that Aries rules spicy food and spicy music, heavy, hot music, you could expect that in the way Aries manifests itself in how women dress themselves, how they behave socially, how they behave in the bedroom, etc. Aries women overall can be summed up as spicy, truly. Now, they also have a bit of angst to them, and being the most masculine sign of the zodiac, that can be tough on Aries women. They might not get the reputation of being the feminine doll textbook girlfriend. Like I said, they will often have this kind of rebel, sticking their nose up at people attitude. And I'll list off some celebrities so people know what I'm talking about. Emma Watson, she's this fiery, spunky, like aggressive character in Harry Potter. She's aggressive. Now, I don't know if that comes through in the books because we're talking about the actor here.
She's a girl boss in the books, big time.
Right.
She's like, I'm a straight A student. I'm the leader of this little group. I'm Hermione. She is very Aries, as you describe in the Harry Potter books. Absolutely.
Now, Aries women will tend to have, like, the men will kind of have this snarled, devious look about them. The women can definitely have this angular, for example, Sarah Jessica Parker It's like angle, angle, angle. It's like a trigonometry, geometry experiment on her face. You know, she looks like a horse, is what I'm saying. She looks
Yeah.
terrible. Now she has very Aryan features. Kristen Stewart always has this kind of angry or rebellious, snarled, you know, just angsty face. Never just like smiling, you know, happy to be alive. She has this angsty face about her. And who else do you see? Lady Gaga, right? Lady Gaga is a big Aries presence with the red blood. This thing, is she a boy? You know, things like that. Very Aryan. And she plays and performs in a very Aryan way. She has like a very F you attitude. I'm not a big fan of her at all. I despise her. Now, don't get me wrong. I can get down to got down to paparazzi many a time at a bat mitzvah in my day. But
I'm a Kesha guy, not really a Lady Gaga guy. I like the
good
updated
point.
version, sort of.
Good point. Yeah, Kesha is more up my alley for sure. I think I've seen her live.
Wow, that's epic.
But yeah, who else? Eddie Murphy's in Aries. You know,
He sort of looks like a Klingon from Star
yeah, you'll
Trek.
find that Nate Diaz, total Klingon. Nate
Oh, wow.
Diaz. Yeah, Nate Diaz,
He's a
big
real
Aries, big time
head
Aries.
first arrows type of dude.
You'll find Aries do not make it to stardom as much as the other signs because, like I said, they kind of inspire contempt in other people. People have a hard time really falling in love with Aries from afar. They have this combustive or abrasive nature. Abrasive, abra, you know, April, the opening of the door. Abra, cadabra, that's Aries. Abrasive, to be off-putting, you know, rough around the edges or a little rude. Rude, red, to be rude, just to be red, you know.
Is there a rebellious streak to Aries as well?
Yes. Yes. Aries is a instigator in that sense with rebellion. They'll instigate. They don't like authority. Aries are like the screaming baby of the Zodiac. They're the child of the Zodiac, but also they are rich in youth for a long time. Aries. Okay. And by the way, we should probably say it here. This is not your flower power, feel good astrology cast. This is CHADcast, people. Okay.
Yes.
So we're giving astrology the testosterone and etc. that it probably doesn't see in other avenues. And to be honest, that's why so many people are afraid to step into it because they think it's this girly feel good. Tomorrow you're going to have the best day ever. 2 weeks from now you're going to see someone you haven't seen in a while, and it's just vague blanket statement after the next. And we're here to fill the gap for the other side. It's time that both men, women, productive, unproductive, everyone should be able to approach astrology. But I don't want to hear anything about us dogging on women, okay? Or at least me.
Astro Chads go where we need to explain these signs, and I'm learning so much in this process, as is the audience. So
here's another good thing to touch on is that Aries, I must say, are the sign that most inspires contempt in other people. This is verifiable in your own life. Aries will get people around them upset who probably don't get upset at other people in the same way. Now, Aries have an irritating, if you're irate, Aries, Ireland, irate. If you are, right,
wow.
Iridium, Aries rules the eye, seeing as well the iris.
Or this, dude, I just made a huge connect. Our whole lives as Americans, it's go to war with Iraq, go to war with Iran. So there you see sort of the Aries being manifested with the era being irritated. Like it's almost like they named those countries that way just so there would be a future confrontation or something. You know?
Yes, they're energetically charged with aggression, for sure. And I'll also say, irate Iridium being iris, this glimmer in the eye, shining Mars and Sun, ruling Aries, but irritating.
Yeah.
Aries are irritable and they're irritating. That word comes from Aries, like I said. Also, the word arrogant comes from Aries. Why? Because they know what's right. They're doing it already. They don't need to be told, right? That's kind of their energy. Back to the women. The men will have this like angry look up here. The women, although they can have these angular features, and they do a lot, you'll find that they have this pouty look about them a lot. The Aries women will.
Kind of
So
resting
there's
bitch face type shit.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. They have a bit of a aggressive, imposing look about their face. Whereas signs like Cancer, Taurus, Libra, you're going to get much more pleasing nature. Virgo as well. Virgo, much more pleasing, if not neutral, receptive face. Whereas Aries is very like, if they're looking at you, they're like looking at you. And Crystalia is just a perfect. He's the biggest Aries ever in terms of doing without thinking, getting himself into trouble, being a fool. His comedy is just aggressive. He's just going after everyone around him. He's not.
Yeah, I've never heard it. I've never been enamored with his act, but I'm familiar with his story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just because I'm bringing people up doesn't mean that I'm fans of them. We all need to be able to learn from whoever it is. But also, I'll say Anakin Skywalker, so Hayden Christensen, and Ewan McGregor. So Obi-Wan and Anakin. Okay, this epic battle scene between these two guys, right? Supposed to be brothers, best friends, whatever. Teacher, student. But then they end up clashing. Now, say what you want about Star Wars. I'm not some Star Wars fan, but the fact that they trained more than anyone's like trained for simulated like lightsaber battles. They were doing some serious like maneuvering, athletic, they were all doing most of their stunts and doing these crazy. They filmed a bunch of sequences where they're clashing like real speed with these lightsabers. It's very, very Aryan. These guys are just natural like fighters. They're Hollywood actors, and you pop them in there and they just excel. And you're probably not going to get that with a sign like, now you could show me anyone who's good at anything of every sign, but I'll say more static signs like the earth signs, the water signs. They're not so much on ready to go, ready to learn something, because learning something often means unlearning what you already know or putting how you think to the side. And Aries don't have kind of these preconceived, instilled ethics, morals, principles that govern their life. They're very living in the moment, in the minute. Like I said, they can be very ahead of themselves.
So when two Aries guys get together, they're going to butt heads.
Well, you could say that is a potential. You could say that many fire signs are going to clash. Now, I'm a Sagittarius. I clash with Aries men, especially. I'll find, even the ones I'm really close with. And Aries are quick to fight. Okay? So, the Aries, I haven't been in a fight with an Aries, or I don't know, actually. But I'll tell you, Aries do not back down from fights. They don't back down from fights. They're ready to go, almost always. Where a sign like Pisces is going to pause. Pisces pause, passive, pussy, peaceful, pacifist. Pisces is going to delay full aggression to the last possible moment. Aries is kind of the opposite. They're kind of waiting for an excuse to turn the engine on and get swinging. Aries men can be like that. Now, I'll say there's some archetypes with Aries. There's the Aryan, who have like this wiry body and a big head. And I'd say that's kind of like the Aries, and you'll see people like Santos Bonacci, right? You'll see that they have like this kid, because Aries rules childhood and the early phases of learning in childhood. So that's why you see this, sunrise, early childhood. It's the beginning. It's the fool, the Tarot. It's the beginning of things.
So how do Aries men dress?
Aries men dress, you can find them gravitating towards like military, like this military dad aesthetic, like weekend warrior type, cargo shorts, gear, equipment. They'll have like, they'll be decked out with like a holder for their phone or something just tactical that serves no real purpose. But then Aries can be known for, they're not the most formal is what I should say. They're not formal. They can throw whatever's around on, so they can kind of have this disheveled appearance. And yeah, Aries kind of have a reputation for being slobs, or at least just too, pacing around, not focused or stable enough to just sit down and clean everything up. And Aries can be like that. Now there's go-getters with every sign, but this is the Aries archetype.
Other potential topics for sign: physiognomy, facial features. You talked about that with men. Facial features with women.
A pointy chin is very common among Arians. A pointy chin, rosy cheeks, rosy features. I will almost always be able to guess Aries based off the eyebrows and the brow. Like I said, they'll have this furrowed, upturned. I can't help but point it up because it's so different than mine. When I look angry, a Sagittarius, they get a T square, which is their rune shape too, and it's the arrow, right? When Aries, and it's the sagittal crest, this T shape. Now when Aries get angry, you'll see they have an arch to their eyebrows. They almost always have this arch, and they can be represented in two different Star Trek. Actually, one Star Trek character is a caricature of Aries. That is the Klingon. The Klingon with their exaggerated armor-plated foreheads right above the brow. Yes, the Star Trek races are astrologically composited, but it's also the brows will often come to the sides of the head, around almost like the horns of a ram. And you'll see that with the forehead. It almost looks like the horns are pushing out and going out to the sides. You see that with the Aries. The forehead is prominent. The brow is, I guess you could say, furrowed, but also upturned, arched, jagged. And you'll find a pointy chin very often. Now, Aries and Martians in general will often have lisps. Okay, you'll find that. For example, Emma Stone is not, I don't think she's an Aries, but she is Martial. I think she's a Scorpio. And she has a lisp. Arian people will often have lisps or speech impediments because Aries is not the communicator. They're the doer, they're the actor. So the tongue kind of gets the least XP points at the start of the video game, so to speak. And they'll really have more confidence. Aries have a lack of awareness that is really unique to them. And that can be a blessing because they can just go right out there and expose themselves and not care at all what anyone's thinking. They're really not even factoring it in. They don't have the reflection to take on.
So they tend to have straightforward personalities. They're going to tell you how it is.
And they are best finding something they can just do and not look back and take off. So, they excel in physical activity. Athletes, Aries, so many Aries in the NFL.
Archers.
So, archers?
Yeah.
Well, Sagittarius is the archer.
Okay.
It's the archer.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a connection there with arrow because arrow penetrates and that's where you get the connection between those. That's it. They tend to have, with Aries, I named kind of one archetype or one body type. The other, what I'd say is like the tank, just this jacked, beefed out guy. They, it sounds silly to say, but Aries can either be kind of rail thin or very, very muscular and very red and warlike. Aries are not typically overweight or fat, you'll find. And if they are, they're getting that influence from somewhere else in their chart. Aries is not. Aries is a burning of fat. Aries stays hot, active. Aries don't put on weight. They just don't gain mass like that. They tend to stay lean. Aries are the most lean sign of the zodiac for sure. They'll get the lowest body fat if they're working out or things like that. Aries is a great sign. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm dogging it too much, but Aries is the fighter. They're the conqueror. They want to go out and fight, the pioneer. They're fearless. Okay. They have no regard for their own safety. In ancient times, the frontline soldiers, they would seek Aries men to fill that role in ancient warfare. They would have entire columns of Aries in the front lines. And the archers in the back might be Sagittariuses.
The artillery, so to speak.
Yes, the artillery, archers in the back, arcing things over.
So when I think about Aries and the spring equinox being the biggest release of energy Mother Nature has to offer, what's the connection between Aries and energy?
Right. Well, energy can be thought of as either a martial or a solar effect. Primarily solar. The sun is where we get all energy. Now, the sun rules Leo, and Leo, you find many of these same qualities. Leo and Aries, there's much crossover in the personality type. Now, Leo tends to be more self-centered in their decision-making and outlook on life, but that's because of their solar nature. Now, the sun rules Leo, like I'm saying, but it exalts in Aries. So the sun exalting in Aries, you have the sun at its highest, and the sun is responsible for all electricity, radiation, heat, etc. Well, then you also have your Mars. Mars rules Aries. So Mars and the sun together in one sign of the zodiac is where you get these hot, fiery, warlike, drying, heating qualities and infinite energy, combustive energy. There's a drive, there's a temperature increase with Aries. This is springtime when the thermostat starts rising, right?
So it's like a rising energy. It's an increase correlated to the sun.
Yes.
It's an ascension, essentially.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And it's the beginning. Aries is the best time to begin things. We should start our year in Aries. But when the moon is in Aries, it's a great time to begin things in your month. Not to plant. I wouldn't plant with Aries because it's not a fertile sign, but to begin things.
I like to launch things in March. And I feel like it's the start of a new beginning. Do you have anything else pressing on your mind as far as Aries goes? Aries, maybe.
Aries rules things that are ignacious, igni, agni. You'll see that is a root word going back to the lamb or the ram as well. Agni, igni, ignacious. Also, Aries rules acne, this combustive red presence in the face, this explosion, etc. It's the sun. Sorry, it's your skin erupting. And that's very much an Aries thing. And I would just say, with Mars being the ruling planet, Mars is where we get words like martial, mark, okay, like marked for death, the mark that you're going to shoot at, the target, murder, mar.
Wait, I wonder if there's any correlation between Mark in the Bible and Aries. That would be interesting to look into.
Yes, now there is, because Mark is probably the most martial of the apostles, and Mark being Mars, March, absolutely.
Like the army's going to march.
Yes,
forward.
sir. Yes, sir. That's March. There you go.
Awesome. Now, Dr. Narco Longo, what can you tell us about the term astro-etymology?
Astro-etymology. Well, all words are astro-theologically derived. They are creations of astrological knowledge, and words and sounds have meanings that are objectively tied to the stars. And this is kind of your Tower of Babel. It's not the dark, terrible story we all think it is, even though that's one valid interpretation. When all of mankind was under one peaceful, harmonious tongue, that tongue was the language of the stars. And we could all read this and understand it. And I think, you opened up talking about literacy and astro literacy. Now you have to be literate. And part of that is knowing the origin of many words. For example, mercenary. This is one of the best ways to demonstrate this because both words are just kind of left in there, not much tweaking. You have Mercury and Aries. So Aries rules war, like we've been talking about, fighting, combat. Mercury is where we get commerce or merchants or the mercado, the market, right? Market comes from Mercury, not Mars, but there's a connection there too. Because it's public, it's out, you're displaying publicly, and that's a very Aryan thing as well. So Mars, you have your mercenary, mercenary, meaning Mercury, commerce, buying and selling, and Aries, warfare, warfighter, soldier. So that is your mercenary, someone who's buying and selling combat. Okay, someone who's offering themselves as a soldier for money, mercenary. Now there's many different many different ones, but all words come from astro-theology, meaning they either go straight back to a planet or a god or both, because they're one and the same. And that's the truth behind the Indo-European languages. And it's true for languages outside of that family, but it's especially true for the Indo-European languages, where you have this astro-theological overtone throughout the whole language.
One thing I think is so important to address, the color red is actually the masculine color. A lot of people have this misconception when a baby is born, light blue means boy and pink means girl. But when in reality, red is the masculine color and blue is the feminine color.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And is it because red is positive in polarity versus blue is negative in polarity?
Yes, it is. And red is hot, blue is cold. Red is drying, blue is more moistening. These are masculine and feminine principles. And these can't be altered, but they're kind of trying to tweak it with that subconsciously, with that blue and pink, like you said. Those are both not only is it emasculating for the man to be blue, but it is, and pink is good too, don't get me wrong. Pink does rule fertility and it's the color of Venus. But you could even make the argument that red and pink would be too hard to distinguish. But I'm with you that it should be red and blue. We shouldn't tiptoe with red and versus pink or pink versus baby blue. It should be red and blue. I like that too.
So speaking of Aries, there's one thing that I'd like to say about this series that Dr. Narco Longo and I have just begun. This series is going to be fire. Okay, we're going to go over the basic archetypes of all the signs, including the planets. That being said, I recently signed up for the Old World Florida Patreon. Why did I do that? Because I reached sort of a threshold with this channel where it was like, I've spent X amount of hours watching. I got to do something in addition to contributing my efforts on camera, right? I've done this with one other channel where I was like, okay, I've watched X amount of hours. I just signed up for $5 a month. Don't care. Forgot about it. It is what it is. But that's something I had to do. I just had to recently. because it's minimal, and I feel like it was genuine in the sense that I just reached a threshold of how many hours I've watched, and then I just signed up for the Patreon and I forgot about it, and that's about it.
Hell yeah. I appreciate that, man. Glad to have you on board. And the Patreon's going to be getting revamped soon, but I appreciate all the support nonetheless. So thank you.
Thank you, man. This series is going to be awesome. I'm going to learn a lot, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And it's astrology like it has never been presented before, because I was turned off to astrology initially because I thought of, some chick just getting stoned and like talking about her feelings. Essentially, I think that women have a natural predilection towards astrology, but what's missing is sort of the masculine element where, I told you the first time we met in Florida, I was like, dude, once the Chads get into astrology, it's game over for the bad guys. You know what I mean? Because once we know what's up, quite literally, we're going to know what's going down in the world.
Oh, yeah. I agree, man. It kind of has been allotted to the overweight losers with too many piercings and too many problems, and it's just like you turn on YouTube and it's either they're trying to stroke you to death and pet you like a dog. Oh, you're the best little baby ever, and everything about you is good, and wow, everything's going to be great. They're either taking that approach, especially with a lot of these older women astrologers, and then with the younger women astrologers, it's almost always like a pity party. Everything's just like, this is going to be so hard on you, and this is why you're such a strong person. You made it through so much, and it's very emotional, and it doesn't get down to the nitty gritty. It doesn't get down to why it matters, how it can be practiced, how it's true in nature, how nature screams this information out to us. Yeah, you don't want to hear your astrology from someone with a lot of problems and a lot of whatever.
Right. Yeah. Here's how I think of it, man. When there's a guy astrologer, there's less than a handful of people I pay attention to in regards to astrology. I think they're all dudes. And the reason why that is because I think that women have a natural predilection towards astrology, but when a guy is into astrology, that dude spent hours, weeks, months into his craft.
Yeah, that's fair. That it's more natural for women, but the men do tend to be right. I mean, hey, Robert Phoenix, shout out Robert Phoenix.
Yes,
he's my favorite astrologer to watch. And hey, for a girl that I love, Priscilla Costello, guys. Priscilla,
great book.
Costello, knockout. Okay, she does nothing but home runs. Her little interviews are good. Priscilla Costello, Practical Astrology, really good. And Robert Phoenix, shout out to Robert Phoenix. But
yeah, shout out to Coach Rob. He's like a coach of astrology.
Coach Rob, yeah.
Yeah. So another thing we're planning is to continue the football and astrology and sort of take each sign and then go over some of the football players who are basically commercials of these signs, like almost comical representations of these signs. So Taurus is next. Looking forward to that, man.